Dan Illman, Matt Bernier, great card at Laurel on Saturday. One of the major races is the 9th. It's the Grade 3 Barbara Fritchie going 7 furlongs for older fillies and mares, and we have a big field. It should be an excellent betting race, and we got to start with the number 1 Spiced Perfection, Matt. This is a Calbred that's won her last 3 starts on dirt, including the prestigious Grade 1 La Brea last time out. She's been privately purchased since that race. Now, they could have stayed at home and took on some tough ones in the Santa Monica, but they're shipping over here to try their luck at Laurel going 7 furlongs, which is her distance.
Yeah, and I think just from a class standpoint, this is probably the smart move. Now, it's unfortunate that you drew the rail, and you're gonna have to deal with that. And we know just sort of the standard operating procedure is that Laurel inside's not ideal on the main track, but the good news is she's versatile. She can come from a little bit off of it. There's speed drawn to her outside. I think there's going to be a real scenario where Flavian plays the break. You see what happens, let some other horses go, ease her out into that 2 or 3 path, and you just take up a stalking position. And look, if she's good enough, she's good enough. I thought that run 2 back was awesome. I said, take a shot in the La Brea. What do you have to lose? I didn't think she'd go out there and win as easily as she did. And
she overcame some things in that race. After breaking from the far outside post, I had her 4 wide most of the way, 5 wide on the turn, and she kept grinding it out. Now, would you say that was a vintage renewal of the La Brea, or maybe not a true Grade 1 in quality?
Well, I mean, the other thing to keep in mind about that La Brea, I can sit here and say, you know, she was very, very impressive. The 3-5 favorite that day was a complete no-show in
right.
Dream Tree. So, you know, it's one thing to say that when you beat the big horse and the big horse, you know, it's a tooth and nail all the way down. When the big horse completely drops anchor, all of a sudden it becomes a wide open race. I don't want to take anything away from her for what she did, but you're right. I mean, you got to look at it and say it was probably a little bit lesser than Grade 1.
Brian Coroner did a heck of a job with Spiced Perfection. She is now trained by Peter Miller, who has been on a roll lately with this formulator fact over the past 6 months. Older last out winners on dirt. Miller knows how to place them. 38% winners, a $2.43 ROI. The 4 is Dawn the Destroyer going out for Kieran McLaughlin, and this was a mare that always showed promise earlier in her career, but she couldn't breathe. They gave her tieback surgery before she came back to the races in November. Since then, she's won 2 in a row with Beyer speed figures of 96 and 91, and she has looked good winning her races. Give her a little pace up front, she'll come with a bid.
Yeah, I thought it was an honest enough effort in that Interborough most recently. I think the distance is right in her wheelhouse. I'd be lying if I said I love the Interborough as a whole, but at the end of the day, if I'm taking anyone out of it, to me, it's going to be her.
Let's talk about a Chad Brown-trained entrant coming out of the Interborough. That's Your Love. Your Love was making her first start off a short layoff that day. She was up close to the pace, and she kind of just didn't fire that day. A restricted stakes winner at Saratoga. Then she ran second in the Gallant Bloom, and for a brief second there, I thought that this mare was going to take a step forward and become a graded stakes horse. Well, it hasn't happened in the last 2 races.
Yeah, it just kind of feels like to me she's been, I hate to say an underachiever because she's been thrown in some difficult spots, but it feels like from day one that the connections have even thought more of her than maybe what she's produced and delivered on the racetrack. Now look, if you're telling me you're going to get 8-1 second off the bench for Chad in a graded stakes race, I'm not going to talk anyone off that, but there's a part of me that wonders, is she this good?
Timeform US Pace Projector has the defending champion on the lead. That's the 8, Miss Locust Point, who won in a terrible snowstorm last year. Hopefully the weather's a little better in 2019. She got back on the beam after a little bit of a losing streak on New Year's Day. John Service wisely dropped her in class at her home track at Parks, and she was able to win pretty easily that day. If she gets away with a scenario, let me take that fast pace out, Miss Locust Point, we know can win at Laurel. We know she can win at 7, and she has some back races that indicate certainly that she can win a race like this.
Yeah, to me, it boils down to how easy is the lead that she gets. If there is any sort of resistance, I think she's in deep, deep water. I just don't know that she is what she once was. You're right. I think that sort of the confidence booster, that's exactly what she needed. It was well timed, it was well placed, and now if you're going to have one of her big efforts, this is supposed to be the spot. There is just a part of me that does wonder, you know, she loves Laurel, I get it, but boy, I just don't know that she is what she once was. She's never fired above a 90.
I just wonder if that fast pace is going to be correct, though, because the horse Timeform US has in second is Shimmering Aspen. And yes, Shimmering Aspen was a pace-pressing winner 2 starts back at Delaware in front of our old favorite Philip Cohen's a Piker. Last time out, though, in the Willa on the Move, they showed the ability to rate from off the pace, and that's something she's been very comfortable with in the past. I just don't see Victor Carrasco going after this 8-horse early and maybe sapping Shimmering Aspen's stretch kick.
No, I agree with that. And that's the thing. You always talk about it, and it's true. You need to handicap the pace projector. Don't just take it at face value. You do a little bit of work and take a look. There's a part of me that does wonder if Spice Perfection down on the rail is the one that ultimately pushes the envelope a little bit. But as I said, if you have Miss Locust Point go and clear off, if she can just angle out into the 2 or 3 path and then just push her along, then I do think that, yeah, that's kind of a more logical situation in my opinion anyway.
The 2 late night powwows only won 8 in a row. She's a half length away from being a perfect 11 for 11 in her career. She beat Miss Locust Point when that one was coming off the layoff 2 starts back. And in her local prep for this race, the What a Summer, she destroyed 3 other horses.
Yeah, she galloped. Now, look, it was a really, really short field. She's run into some shorter fields throughout her career. She's a nice West Virginia bred. She's only a half length away from being unbeaten. I have to be honest, when I first looked at her, just going through and looking at the numbers, I said, well, she's there, but then you look and see, again, Charlestown, Bull Ring, sometimes it doesn't translate. That most recent run, I get it was only a 4-horse field. She absolutely destroyed that field. And again, the versatility that she's shown, I wonder if she's going to be one of those horses that people look at her and go, oh, she's cheap. She's not from here. She's no good. There's other horses in here. And maybe you get every bit of that 3.5 to 1, 4 to 1. I think she's a major contender.
And we got a positive formulator fact as well to add to the appeal. This barn over the past 5 years, older last out winners making their second start off a layoff line in dirt sprints. 54% winners, 11 of 13 on the board, and a $2.61 return on investment. I think the 7 Divine Mischief's got an outside chance in this race, Matt. No match for Late Night Powwow last time out, but it was her first start of the year. First start for this barn. You'll note that it's the same barn as Late Night Powwow. All things considered, I thought it was a good performance. She's got a little bit of back class. She's just not fast enough yet.
Yeah, she'll need to take a step forward here, but look, there's nothing wrong with 7 out of 9 in the exacta, 4 times a winner. If she takes that game to the next level, if she can get into the mid-80 range like she did 2 starts back, I think there's a real chance that she could hit the board. I don't know if she's a legit win contender in here, but I think she can hit the board at a big number.
Late Night Powwow is not the only horse coming into this race on a win streak. The 9 Timeless Curls has won 4 in a row, has won 5 out of her last 6, has done it sprinting, has done it going long, and has done it with a variety of running styles. I kind of like her at this 7 furlong distance, but let's be honest, this is the acid test from a class standpoint, isn't it?
I like her on the turnback, but this really is it. I mean, you take a look at her from a number standpoint, she is a little bit on the light side. She's going to have to show that she can run with the big girls in this spot. But if she can, now again, you open up an entirely different sort of can of worms where she's a stakes winner going 2 turns. Perhaps all of a sudden she becomes a graded stakes winner going 1 turn. There's a lot to like here. Again, I just think she's a hair on the light side from a number standpoint. You've
always got to respect Linda Rice when she ships down to Laurel. She's won this race a couple of years ago. On her way was 40 to 1 in the Interborough. She made Dawn the Destroyer run a little bit in her first start for Linda. This is a mare that has a couple of races fast enough to compete, dotted in her past performance lines. Something tells me she needs the right setup.
Yeah, that's kind of the way that I looked at her. I thought she ran just fine in that Interborough, but at the same time, if I'm taking anyone out of it, again, I'm taking Dawn the Destroyer. And if the pace does heat up, then perhaps there's a scenario where On Her Way comes and rolls down the center of the track, but at the same time, I think a minor reward is her ceiling.
Lady Vicky is 30 to 1 on the morning line. She has won 4 out of her last 5 races, and we have a positive formulator fact for her trainer. Over the past 2 years, this barn with older dirt runners off a 45 to 60 day layoff is a 35% clip rate with a $6.63 ROI. This filly might have found the mile just a little bit long. I wonder if the jock moved just a hair too soon in that race. She cuts back to 7. She's just light on figs.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no other way to say it. I'd be surprised if she got it done simply because from a number standpoint, she's light.
My cousin Martha's kind of in the same boat. First time now with Peter Walder. She's coming out of a couple of N2Xs at Gulfstream, but to show what a giant class rise this is, the 4th place finisher of that last race got beaten a $30,000 claimer with a 69 buyer.
Yeah, I mean, this is a career best fig of 78. We're talking about a fig that you're going to need probably, I would imagine, at least a 90 to get it done. I just don't see it happening. Let's
take a look at our top picks for the Grade 3 Barbara Fritchie Stakes. It's Laurel, race number 9. You think it's going to be, what is it now, 9 in a row for Late Night Powwow to make it 11 for 12? She's got that great tactical gear. And again, 7 to 2 on the morning line's fair.
I kind of, you know, again, going back and looking at that most recent run and then looking at all of her other races, I just do feel like there's a scenario where you get every bit of that price. She has that versatility. If Ms. Locust Point goes, if Spice Perfection goes and keeps her company, I do wonder if there's just a chance where Late Night Powwow is just the it horse right now, and you take a chance and get everybody that price.
I'm hoping 2 years in a row for Miss Locust Point. I think her speed makes her very, very dangerous, as it did last year when she was beaten by Late Night Powwow 2 starts back. It was over a muddy track off about a 5-month layoff. I'm going to argue she needed the race that day. I think she's going to come into this race sharp for service, and she might be able to steal it on the front end. Give me numbers.
2-1-8-4.
I'm going 8-1-4-5 in the Grade 3 Barbara Fritchie Stakes, one of several nice races at Laurel on Saturday. The Fritchie with an approximate post of 4:30 Eastern. Best of luck.